Well, good afternoon and maybe good morning to some of you. I don't know where you are. Welcome to the Better Buildings webinar. I think we can start with a few polls just to get some idea of who is participating. If you could please, after joining, start answering those polls. We have an idea of who is attending the webinar, please. Hopefully people are like answering those. I can't see it yet. It says that hosts cannot vote, so I'm not voting. We're giving some time for folks to be able to actually vote. I cannot see the evolution of the vote, so whenever they close, they close. Oh, excellent. Thank you for voting. Next one. Trying to figure out, some of the topics that, different folks would be interested in. Those, as we chose, were topics that actually are very much not only the Department of Energy, but other stakeholders are asking about. So we wanted to make sure that we have an idea about, where people sit, like as first preference. I imagine that some of you may have multiple ones here, but if you would pick one, which one would it be? It's pre-spread nicely. So great. Do we have another one? I think so. We're trying to figure out if people are really trying to do electrification, right away, where are you, and so on. Again, we're giving just the time to actually collect the votes. Thank you. Next slide, please. This is then the start. Thank you for answering the questions. This webinar is part of the Better Buildings Alliance U.S. Department of Energy program. And we are the space conditioning technology research team. And we manage all the space conditioning part of it. Today, we're talking about energy efficient and low carbon HVAC technologies and really trying to focus on underserved commercial settings that, how does that play out and so on. Next slide, please. I'm Marcus. I am a research engineer with the National Renewable Energy Lab, and I will be moderating and introducing the speakers this time. Next slide, please. We'll have some space conditioning team updates. Then we'll have like a talk by Francis Otero and then Don Limperer on different aspects of this topic, and how small businesses and communities can electrify. And then we'll have like some questions and answers in the end. Next, please. The space conditioning technology research team is the ones that are showing up. I'm Marcus, Michael, has been doing work in this area for a long time, and it's a key person in the team. And we have Ryan and Kelsey, both of them, working with us to put it together. If you need to contact us in any way, either with questions or comments, the email is listed there just to make it easier for you to access us. Next, please. Some of the updates. We did release the Healthy Buildings Guide for small businesses recently. And even more recently, we have an edition in Spanish for that guide. It's a short guide, but it talks about a lot of the ways that you can improve the indoor air quality of small businesses. So the links are in the slides. Next, please. We maintain the HVAC resource map. This is a repository of information about HVAC technologies. So multiple technologies are available. We try to update this often with new materials as they become available. So if you can, please pay a visit to take a look at that. Next one, please. We are currently working on two resources. One on the heat pump water heater guide for small businesses, looking at ways that small business can adopt this technology. And then because of the HVAC refrigerant phase down, we are putting together a guide for that transition that will have to take place by law. So if you have a chance whenever, like soon, that we're going to actually release those, they are going through review right now, and we'll be releasing those shortly. Next slide, please. This is an announcement for the Better Buildings, Better Plans Summit that will take place in April. This will be in Washington, D.C. area. And the link to the summit is in the bottom if you want to register to attend it. Next one, please. Okay, this is the time that I introduce the speakers. Frances is a green business specialist with the Colorado Green Business Network, where she provides consultation services and technical assistance to business interested in improving their resource efficiency and operational sustainability. She previously worked as a bilingual business sustainability fellow with BASE, Partners for a Clean Environment, supporting minority-owned businesses with efficiency upgrades in the Boulder County. Frances graduated with a Bachelor of Commerce degree in finance from York University and a master's in Urban Resilience and Sustainability from the University of Colorado Boulder. Frances, the floor is yours. Thank you so much for speaking for us.
Thank you, Marcus, and thank you everyone for inviting us. Thank you also for being here. We really appreciate the opportunity of speaking about what the small business, about how the Small Business Equity Fund pilot has supported businesses in underserved communities with efficiency upgrades. Next slide, please. The Small Business Equity Fund is a program of the Colorado Green Business Network. And again, we launched this program in Aurora, Colorado. Next slide, please. So first, I'll give you an overview of the Colorado Green Business Network, which is the program that funded and implemented the pilot. Then I'll talk about our approach to implementation, the successes and challenges that we had, and also the next steps that we are taking moving forward. So the Colorado Green Business Network is a free and voluntary statewide program that supports and rewards organizations that are committed to increasing the efficiency and sustainability of their operations. We provide free technical assistance and ongoing coaching to all of our members. And we also recognize and reward businesses that go above and beyond in implementing green practices. So we provide many resources, and some of those include networking events, newsletters, sustainability workshops, and we also connect our businesses with local and statewide resources that are available to them and they might not be aware of. We have over 150 members currently, and business members can be of any size, any type, any industry, and regardless of their knowledge on sustainability. If you would like to learn more, please scan the QR code and it'll take you to our website. So in May last year, as I mentioned, the Colorado Green Business Network launched this pilot program. And what we wanted to do was to support small businesses in underserved community with energy efficient upgrades and replace their refrigeration equipment. Our goal was to help them go beyond budget limitations, increase their energy efficiency, reduce their monthly costs, and support their operational sustainability overall. That's why we implemented this program that covered 100% of the cost of the equipment, as well as 100% of the cost of the delivery and disposal, and projects were initially capped at $10,000. So the way we decided to implement this pilot was doing in-person outreach. We didn't do any promotion because our funding pool was really small. So we didn't want to create a high demand, but we visited businesses, and once businesses reached back to us, we work with them on a case-by-case basis. So we would provide them with technical assistance. We would go on site and perform a free sustainability assessment. And within that, we would determine the eligibility of the business to participate in the program, and also of the equipment. We will take the opportunity to set expectations so that the business owner knew what the process would be like, and also that we were a pilot program. We were testing things out, to be patient with us. And we also provided the businesses with a report on additional green practice and recommendations that they could implement. And this was as part of our service to them. The requirements of our program as a state funding program, we wanted to make sure that the businesses were registered with the Secretary of State website, and that they had an updated registration with the IRS, and also that they agreed and signed the pilot's participant agreement. What we also did to eliminate the barriers, as many barriers as we could for these businesses, was like we took over the entire process. So beyond outreach, technical assistance, we purchased the equipment, we scheduled delivery and disposal, and we also submitted rebate applications because we were working within an Excel territory, and they have some like custom rebates for certain equipment. And since we were trying out the program, we wanted to see what the rebate process would be like. So we did it all ourselves, basically. So this is our successes. We work with 7 businesses, 6 of which qualify for replacement. We replaced a total of 12 old units. The average age of the unit was 20 years old. This equipment was very old. The age ranged from 14 all the way to 27 years old, which is a lot. And we replaced it with Energy Star certified equipment. And because our program required proper disposal of the equipment, and we took care of it, we were able to remove 7.3 pounds of hydrofluorocarbons and refrigerants, and actually substitute all of the new units actually use the natural refrigerant, which is like a propane, which has like a low global warming potential. HFCs like Marcus mentioned, are going to be phased out, and they are just like considered high global warming potential refrigerants. So all of the businesses that we supported were minority owned, and we referred 3 out of the 6 businesses, we referred 3 to Excel's free LED interior lighting replacement through their small business energy solutions program. Those 3 businesses qualified, and then in the process of getting all of their indoor lighting replaced for free LED. So these are the numbers of our pilot. This is the total annual estimated savings that we calculated, and we're just showing you a comparison of how many kilowatt hours the old equipment consume versus the new equipment. Savings are really considerable, and in terms of operating costs, also the same. Old equipment versus new equipment. We contributed to over $10,000 per year in savings for these 6 businesses, and we avoided 69.7 metric tons of CO2 equivalent. Here you can see the program estimated savings over the lifetime of the equipment, which is almost 1.5 million kilowatt hours saved. The equipment lifetime that we took was 15 years, but this number of years is quite conservative because as you could see before, small businesses tend to keep those equipment for way longer than that and keep them going just by giving them as much maintenance and as many repairs they can over the lifetime of the equipment until it cannot work anymore. Here, this is the average annual estimated savings per business that we contributed with our pilot. You can see from the table that on average, we saved each business 8,935 kilowatt hour per year and almost $1,000 per year. And the average reduction percent was 87%. The costs were $57,000. 91% of that was only to purchase the equipment. Equipment can be very expensive, and this is why we try to support these businesses into giving them access to this type of equipment. So each project costed on average $11,000, and the equipment costs on average like $5,000, give or take the size of the equipment. So what we learned with this program is that we had outreach issues, and that's because many businesses from underserved communities do not trust government programs overall. So yeah, we run into those problems. In terms of delivery, we had some lack of communications either from the businesses or from vendors. So the equipment could be delivered ahead of schedule. We'll have delays. Yeah, the process, we work with like multiple vendors because it was a test. So it was like really hard to get all of these organized. And we wanted to create the least disruption for businesses. In addition to that, we had equipment issues like the price of the equipment increased month over month. The equipment could have had like some fry damage. estimating the age and the energy use of the old equipment was like really challenging. And we also had other issues with vendors like disposal, and the processing in on itself was a little bit time consuming. And this is how we decide that we're going to move forward. We want to leverage our partnership with vendors. We want to make sure that they're engaged with our program and they can help us spread the word. We want to build community connections, especially in these underserved communities, and find people that actually, leaders that actually are trusted within the community. We want to tailor the information for this audience. The promotional material needs to look the way that these businesses look. We need to update the participant agreement to better reflect the program. And we also want to streamline the process again, select just a few contractors that we can work with versus having like too many of them, but we needed to go through the process overall. More advertisement of the Colorado Green Business Network overall to engage these businesses in other sustainability efforts. Follow up with the businesses that we help. And of course, we are really focused on securing funding and figure out ways to distribute them equitably. And that's my experience. Thank you so much for being here, for listening, and feel free to reach out. That's my information if you have any questions. I'll also be taking questions if you have any. Thank you so much.
We are holding the questions for the end, Francis, and so we'll have it. We'll move to the next one, and then go to towards the end we have like a set of like discussions. Dom Lemperer is Chief of Engineering at BlocPower, where he leads the engineering department. Over 30 years, Don has assessed, developed, and managed energy improvements for over 200 million square feet of residential and commercial buildings. He served as an advisor for the New York City Mayor's Office 80 by 50 technical working group, which identifies citywide pathways to achieve New York City's climate goals. In this role, his goal was to ensure safe, reliable, and affordable energy. As a subject matter expert in building electrification, he also joined the New York City Urban Green Council, and I served as building electrification committees and reviewed the New York City Housing Authority LL 97 electrification roadmap. Dom and his family live in Charlotte, North Carolina. Dom, thanks for speaking to us. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Marcus, and good afternoon, everyone. And thank you again for giving me the opportunity to speak today. First slide, please. So today I'm going to talk about electrification in low and medium income communities, or LMI. Next. So I'm going to start with an overview of who we are as a company, and provide you a little bit of the context and a little bit of the history, stories, and successes that we have encountered so far. Next. So BlocPower is a minority-owned Brooklyn-based company. We consider ourselves as a tech company. It's our 9th year this year, and the particularity of our company is to focus on greening residential, but also small commercial buildings. We have chosen that type of market because other companies, larger companies, have been focusing on the small residential as well as much larger commercial buildings. As a tech company, we have developed a software platform that help identify identify opportunities to improve buildings. We are working essentially on retrofitting buildings, so existing buildings and portfolios of buildings. And our platform also helps us streamlining the design and the installation of our project. All this was a goal to cut on time and cost, of course. We also offer a way to finance projects, and I will have a slide with more details around that. And we are not limiting the scope to electrification only, but also any type of energy efficiency measures. And finally, we have that particularity, I would say, to work with local workforce development entities or organizations to help train the workforce development members on energy efficiency and electrification projects. So far we have completed over 1,000 projects, with a large majority on the energy efficiency side of our scope. And it's been 2.5 years that BlocPower has been focusing on electrification and decarbonization. You can see on the slide just a few companies and entities, organizations who have invested in BlocPower and also supporting us. Next slide, please. So 2022 have been an interesting year for the company. Not to brag about it, but yeah, a little bit maybe. But this has been really a transition year where there have been recognitions from medias and other news outlets to show our work and to put actually our company on track to really provide a big impact to the building stock. Next one, please. So as I said, what is different? How do we approach electrification in LMI communities? Next slide, please. An approach could be really starting around environmental justice and energy environmental justice programs. As a company, we are looking to serve underserved communities. This is at the core of our mission as a company. As I mentioned, we are a tech company, and our platform and a software called BlocMaps, which is a proprietary software, help us identify opportunities. We have access to building data through open sources and other type of sources to help identify communities, low and medium income communities, so that we can engage a program to help towards environmental justice. So with access to this data, and we have access to over 200 million buildings, actually data over that, from square footage to others, right? We can indeed engage directly with owners of affordable multifamily buildings, for instance, minority-owned businesses and other LMI communities, houses of worship, which for the most part are at the center, could be at the center of a community, right? So we help communicate the good, being, how can we do in a building? How can we improve buildings to save money, energy, reduce our footprint, the building footprint, environmental footprint. All this around that BlocMaps, which is our product, right? And through sorting out data through questionnaires that are available as a form, basically on our website, we can help identify candidates, or leads, right, that we hope to, that will become actually project later on. Next, please. So any building owner, market rate, LMI, affordable housing, for instance, and others are facing, I would say, the same problem, right? Because electrification, decarbonization with deep energy retrofit is so complex, right? A lot of building owners could be overwhelmed very, very quickly, right? First, as a minimum, they have to, in order to take on and implement electrification project, for instance, they will have to work with at minimum 6 different parties, right? Starting from the energy auditing firm, engineering, putting together a bid for contractors, finding a way to finance a project, how to access incentives and so on, right? So a building owner, any building owner will have to face the complexity of an electrification project. And this is particularly true for an owner of an LMI project, an LMI building, right? And the reason for that is, unfortunately, there is a lack of capacity in those buildings. Let's take an example of a multifamily building, LMI, right? Where you have the superintendent maybe working on more than one building, right? And running everywhere all day, in every apartment all day. A building owner, LMI building owner, just doesn't have the capacity to take on this project for the most part, right? And take this project through. Next slide. So the solution, or a solution that we believe is really adapted to underserved communities, is really to be an entity who can serve a building owner, right? And I would say take care of all the different parties, or communicate and manage all other parties that will be part of an electrification project. Right? So being there in between, I would say, and have some kind of a building owner's rep, right, or general contractor, this type of role, right? We have well proven that this is definitely one way to resolve that complex issue, right, or problem, right? Next, please. So I was talking about electrification, but energy efficiency, as well as on-site generation and battery storage, for instance. We cannot, in our view, we cannot just come up with, let's electrify the building, install heat pumps, and stay there, and just stop there, right? We are looking to be as comprehensive as possible, and that's where we can really align with utility goals, with energy program goals, and I think overall, right, where we need to bring our country, right, in terms of greening, right, buildings. The fact that we have access to a platform, we share a lot of data, right? And one way to reduce cost through the process, or through the structure that I explained earlier, where a company like BlocPower can take or manage subs and contractors and consultants, right? Just by the fact we could share the data set on the building, on the construction, will optimize the communication between all actors and parties involved in the project. And we believe that just that alone can save a lot of money towards, reducing, of course, the cost of each intervention, right, and measures and projects. Next, please. So when it comes to very expensive, I would say, electrification projects, the financing is always the number one issue that we are seeing, right? Where can I find the money? This is a very expensive measures or group of measures or scope of measures, right? So we put together and work it took BlocPower about 2 years to come up with, I would say, a relationship with banks like Goldman Sachs, for instance, right? To come up with a relatively innovative way to finance project, right? And that offering has started, the targeted audience was low and medium income communities, right? How can we find, through delivering a service, right? How can we find a financing that would allow zero money down, right? And really to stretch the payments over a long period of time. We are talking about 10, 15 years here. The goal of stretching it, and there's obviously a cost to it, right? Of interest and so on, right? But the whole idea is to say, today, Mr. or Mrs. building owner, you're paying X on your utility expenditures. We will try to work with you to make that number equal as much as we can to the new expenditures, utility expenditures, or overall globally energy expenditure, plus the cost of, plus the monthly lease payment, right? That is an ideal solution to provide basically a net, net zero, a net outcome, right? Or results, right? Just to make really, really a balanced budget. So we do that without, it's a service, it's a lease. We're talking about a lease here, where a company like BlocPower develop a project, own and operate the assets, being heat pumps, domestic controller heat pumps, and so on, right? For the duration of the lease, so let's say 15 years. So this type of electrification as a service have been looked at by many other companies who are working like BlocPower does into providing those type of new approach to building owners. Another also important part, as I mentioned, LMI communities typically don't have the capacity, right, to with maintenance, for instance, of the equipment. So the maintenance cost also rolled into the lease payments, right? Next slide. So while a lot of companies like us have been working one building at a time, but successfully we learned a lot of lessons. We had to repair, we had to come back, but we feel much better now. But if we really want to make an impact, right, is to look at the level of a program rather than one building at a time. And BlocPower has been fortunate to work with a city like, still now, city of Ithaca, New York, which is one of the first city in the country to adopt a Green New Deal approach and to electrify or decarbonize, I would say, all their buildings by 2030, which is on its own a very big challenge, right? But there's also other either utilities or cities where we believe we can create programs to help electrification, to help decarbonization efforts at a much larger scale, with a goal to, because of the volume of work, to reduce the cost of equipment and labor, right, associated with those programs, right, to really benefit the building owners. Next slide, please. Another aspect of what BlocPower is doing is because we are touching communities, right? We also feel that people living in those communities should contribute to that electrification effort, that greening effort. And one example that we started about a year and a half ago is a program with New York City's mayor's office to develop that workforce program. So as you all know, right now there's a definite shortage of skilled labor, of trades, right? Electricians, everybody's busy. And if we want to really electrify at the large scale, we need to train, we need to bring a new, more labor, right? More individuals working on those sites. So the program on itself starts with fundamental training. Members are going for OSHA 40 certification and basic construction and electrical trade, for instance, right? And then a specialization that really depends on, I would say, what type of programs are actually available. If there's a solar program or incentive towards installing solar, which is largely the case, heat pumps or EV chargers, we are putting together individuals who start with relatively low skills, right? And put some kind of accelerated training to be obviously, and ultimately, after an on-site training, to really help at different levels, to really help towards construction, right? Next slide. So after 1 year, we have had quite some success, we think, right? We enroll over 1,000 individuals into that program with over 400 job placements that we're very proud of. Those placements are either temporary or permanent, right? And the impact is also pretty good in our view, right? Since it will affect, over the equivalent of 5,000 city blocks. That's the way we needed to show our metrics, and that's what I'm sharing today. Next slide. But what is very particular with this program, this workforce program, the Civilian Climate Corps, is how we are changing also the new green economy, and who is impacted favorably by this program. Here are a few examples where in green construction workforce, typically women represent less than 10% of the workforce. In this program, about 25% are actually women working and being trained by this program. The same approach, another approach, but results is also true with Black and Brown adults who represent today between 5 and 7% of the green construction workforce. In the case of our program, that is a totally different number. It's almost, close to 100%, 97%. So we are giving a chance through that program to individuals who have been, I would say, underserved, right? That's also one very positive way of bringing together this type of workforce development program, again, towards an industry that needs a lot of workers, labor. And just to conclude, right, we have seen around our members, and this program has started, interestingly enough, not from a CO2 emission reduction perspective, but really to reduce the gun violence within the city of New York, in New York City, right? That was the initial intent, and a lot of people actually within our workforce members were formerly incarcerated, right? About 36%. So giving a chance, I would say, for the good and for the good program. Next slide. Thank you very much for listening. And thank you to Anna also for helping me with going over those slides. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much, Dom. This is very interesting. We'll move into questions and maybe a discussion. We do have a Q&A chat, I guess, like that's the best way to put it. If you have questions and that you would like just to ask there, that would be useful for us to actually go and convey those questions to the speakers, and we'll try to actually address them as we go. I wanted to start with like the one that is there. There's a question there that someone was actually a few minutes late, and this could have been discussed, but I want to make sure that it gets answered again. Does this program only focus on high impact equipment? This is for Francis. In other words, does the program do anything to help business install low cost measures like LEDs and low flow water devices? Francis, would you like to address?
Yes, yes, the answer is yes. The small business equity pilot also supported businesses when we go on site and do technical assistance. If a business, if we can refer the business to any of the programs that we are aware of, and that we also recommend all of the other businesses within the Colorado Green Business Network. So if we can recommend them to existing programs that they can benefit from, we do. We did it. We referred 3 of our businesses to Excel Small Business Energy Solutions Program, which offers a free indoor LED lighting replacement for qualifying businesses. And because these were very small businesses, they definitely qualify for the program. And that's something that we do as part of our technical assistance. So if we see the opportunity to install that, let's say, faucet aerators, we do so if we see the opportunity. And yeah, that's what we've been doing that we could do. We launched, like we are right now launching like in a Small Business Equity Fund 2.0 with some extra money that we got. And this is just like to support similar businesses in the same community of Aurora Replace, do other type of upgrades. For example, those that do not, that Excel Energy doesn't cover in those areas, such as exterior lighting, replacement of equipment, walking coolers, motors with ECMs, like electronically commutated motors that are more efficient. We are hoping to support them with that. And if some of them have like some manual thermostat, or they don't have occupancy sensors, and we see the opportunity to support them with that, we're also trying to, we are playing with all of these opportunities and to see where we can go and how much we can help them. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions, please place them in the Q&A. That would be helpful. I think, I have a few questions that actually could help clarify things. What exactly is missing to make those projects more common, more available, more easier to implement, and so on? What is your perspectives? And maybe since you just answered one, Francis, Dom, would you like to take a stab at this? What could we do to make this find funding streams to actually fund those programs?
Yes, I mean, I think to answer your question directly, I think communication is very important. And I would say in the case of heat pumps, for instance, right, which is a technology, and particularly in a cold climate of our country, where heat pumps have not been common at all, right? I would say putting together case studies, very strong case studies that will reflect very closely what building owners or industries are really looking for, that they can really see, hey, this could really apply to my building, right? So communication and definitely having very strong case studies and detailed case studies.
Thank you. Francis, would you like to add anything?
I would say like communication is very important, just to say what Dom said. And if you can find people from the community that you're targeting that can just like help you with creating those relationships, that probably would take you like further in your attempt to implement this type of upgrades.
Thank you. We have another question. Professor Paulo Tavares from Colorado School of Mines is attending. So he has a question for Francis and saying, are there any plans to continue the large appliances program?
Well, right now, we started with refrigeration equipment because those were like just only plug-in, and we wanted to figure out how this contracting work could be done. We are a state entity, so we have limitations on how we can and should engage with businesses, and there are many barriers, and to kind of like bring them to the minimum, we did plug-in equipment. Now that we got an extra money, we're still trying. I mentioned quite a few upgrades that are not that expensive, but we are open on a case-by-case basis, depending, to try other type of upgrades like dishwashers and like ovens, electric ovens. That's just because those are going to require installation, and we might be able to figure out how is that we can move the process with equipment that require installation. As of right now, we are open to ideas. We would love to offer like bigger equipment, but as of right now, it's not possible. So we won't get into like, unfortunately, until like any HVAC or anything like that. But one never knows. This wasn't possible before. We're working to make it possible now. So yeah, let's see where we're at.
Something that we can follow up and talk about it for sure. Another question just came in. BlocPower has written a white paper about using blockchain-based carbon credits as a means for helping to finance LMI projects. Dom, is that something they are actively doing? And if so, could you speak a bit to how this works?
Yes, so it's not actively, it's not active yet. We looked at this blockchain. We have been looking at it for probably a year and a half, right? This is very complex to implement. We are certainly interested in carbon credits. And to be totally honest with you, I'm not a financing guy, so I can talk a little bit about the carbon credits, slightly a little bit about that, but certainly not blockchain, which I don't understand. But the goal is still, for BlocPower, is still to leverage carbon credits, right? So we are actively putting together tools to help building owners to get into the market, right? On the blockchain, yes, indeed, there was a white paper around that. Obviously, I didn't write it. Yes, with or without blockchain, BlocPower is looking at to leverage carbon credits for LMI and other building owners.
I was going just to add that, you know, there's a lot of interesting technology using blockchain that people are exploring in different settings that involves buildings, including negotiations for tariffs and so on. That may be the future. We are not there yet, but we are, you know, kind of looking at those. Just to add, Dom.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And looking at carbon credits, I think we are looking at ways to make it how accurate. I mean, accurate. How granular do we need to analyze our data? Right? Is this annual consumption, monthly consumption versus a more granular hourly consumption? So there's a lot to it. But like other companies, as you mentioned, Marcus, we're looking at ways to leverage the carbon credits and any types of revenue streams, right? Post-installation through, you know, program or future programs, right? You know, demand response and others that can benefit ultimately the LMI project. I see there's also a question about block maps. In fact, this tool is also is available outside of New York City, and we work with other utilities. Also, we have worked also with utilities through contract or a SaaS approach, right? And more recently with 3 cities in Georgia who have. So we are very excited also to work on the more southern part of the country. But yes, to answer, we are expanding block maps. We have expanded block maps to other part of the country, or definitely outside of New York City now.
We still have a little bit of time, so I'd like to ask Francis about. What about cost? You know, what are the perspectives of cost to the customer?
Well, the pilot didn't cost any to any of the businesses we work with, so they just needed to be on site to help us out, and they got their equipment for free. We've been thinking about when the time comes to expand the program, if it gets approved, and is all of the ifs that then we need to kind of like make sure happen, actually end up being like you know, good. We've been thinking about actually funding something about, let's say, 70% of the equipment, and the business to be able to contribute to 30%. Maybe have some sort of, because that's a little bit, you know, the business has a little bit the skin of the game, and our money actually can, you know, like go a little bit further to help maybe a couple of more businesses get equipment. We've been thinking about the possibility of having, for certain specific businesses, still keep the option of like paying for the entire equipment. If the case, we're working on it, so we still haven't decided on all of the eligibility requirements, but yeah, that's what we're planning on doing next.
Thank you. We're coming to the top of the hour. To respect everybody's, including the speakers' time. Thank you very much for attending. Thank you, the speakers, for being part of this webinar. Thanks.